welcome back to another episode of Sideways Rain. JR and I are here again on a Friday, and we're super excited to bring you all a new guest, Michael Clark. Michael is an expert in helping founders and nonprofit leaders turn ideas into action, and most importantly, turn it into money. So can't wait to get into it with Michael today.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some good stuff. Michael left investment banking in New York City, chased down law school with 2 kids at home, and then the plans changed. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here comes the rain. Here we go. We have Michael C. Clark, founder of Personality Pitching, which is a coaching and consulting brand focused on helping founders and leaders improve their pitching, messaging, and confidence. Michael also does nonprofit work. He's the director of capacity building. I'd love to hear about that title, with the Nonprofit Plug, supporting nonprofits with growth and capacity work. And he's an author, playbook guy, promotes practical guides like the Startup Pitch Playbook and the Giving Tuesday Playbook. But Michael, I can read bullets all day. We'd love to hear from you. What are you all about?
Awesome. I am all about mission and message and calling. I love working with startup founders and nonprofits, fill in those gaps, those holes that they have in leading their missions. In many ways, you can put the tag of like coach, consultant on it. At the end of the day, I meet individuals that have this really big dream, and there's some gap between the dream and the execution, the dream and the actual tangible things they're looking for. So with startup founders, they come to me, they're geniuses in their space and are really sharp, but often struggle at connecting with investors, building that relationship, or even building teams. On the nonprofit side, I work with individuals that have the passion, the drive, the backstory, but they're missing the structure. They're missing the message that hits home with grantors and with donors. And again, just when people come to me, I'm always looking for the problems. I'll sit with someone and they're talking about, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great. I'm like, okay, but where are the problems? Where can I help? And that's really my day-to-day. We talk about superpowers. My superpower is like coming in and saying, okay, what's the problem? Let's fix it. And I love doing it.
Yeah, before we get into our regular format, I have a question about that. I think as entrepreneurs and business leaders, when people ask us about our business, we want to default to the positive stuff, but there's all this work, let's just call it work right now, going on in the background that we're afraid to talk about, or we don't want people to know about it. What drives that instinct, and how do you think talking about those issues help them in the long run?
Yeah, and to that point, what do you mean in terms of like kind of bringing out the problems versus focusing in on the positive all the time?
Yeah, I think our instinct as business owners is to focus on the positive and ignore the negative, which in the long term does not benefit you.
Yeah, and it actually turns into pointing out so many blind spots. The nature of entrepreneurship and startups and nonprofits is one of that hustle grind of, I can do it. I've got the passion. I've got the vision. I've got the drive. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. So when I do come in and kind of point out seemingly these blind spots, I also have to do it in a way that has compassion to it, that doesn't feel like I'm wagging my finger at them. And so the importance comes in is that it's those little blind spots. Because remember I mentioned, I'm working with people that are geniuses in the space, their ears to the ground in terms of what the need is, but it's the small little things that they're ignoring on a usually daily and almost weekly basis that's holding their businesses back, their organizations back. And so pointing them out. And what's nice is because they are small, many times they're fixable. within a designated period of time. Because I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. I do some personal development work, but usually the things that I'm able to point out or that come to the surface with most entrepreneurs or founders or executive directors are things that are fixable, and I can say easily within a 90-day period.
Awesome. Before we jump into the first question from Chris here, just remind the listeners of our format. We're going to cover Michael's storm today, find his umbrella moment, and then talk about the clear skies. So we'll go full circle on that. Ready to jump in here.
Yeah, before we jump into the first question, Michael, you really hit home for me when you said you have to have compassion when you're dealing with these individuals, right? So in my experience, what I've learned when you're dealing with someone like yourself and you're speaking to these geniuses in their space, it is oftentimes hard to get through to them or to get them to listen and respect what you're saying, right? Can you walk us through how you got into this space and how you were able to achieve the respect and get these individuals to trust in what you were saying and not look at you as maybe someone who doesn't know what they're talking about because they're not an expert in the space? I'd love to hear how you validated and continue to grow confidence and build your reputation in this space, because it is a fine line that you're walking. And
Sure.
I do feel like it takes a special person to be able to gain that trust and respect from so many different leaders in different industries.
Sure. And I'm sure we'll get into this a bit when we talk about the storm, but I would say where it all started for me, I started pitching in the space of film and television. I had projects that I had written and produced, as well as I was working with other producers, and I had to make a lot of trips to LA. And the reason I started really focusing on pitching, messaging, and presenting is because I was not so great at it. I could get my ideas out there, but I was so nervous. I can remember having to go to the Paramount lot, and I'm stuck back at the hotel because I'm over the toilet bowl, and I don't want to get graphic, but I got bubble guts because I'm that nervous. And people say, you're a natural pitcher. I'm like, no, I wasn't a natural pitcher. What I was this introvert that wanted to go into meetings, get right down to business, not build relationship and rapport. And as I said, throwing up was a part of my preparation process. But what happened was when I started to settle down and I started to research, and I'm like, how do I get this pitching thing down? How do I get rid of the nerves? And that's part of the framework that I built that I use now. But I really had to work on it myself. And during that process, I got so good at it. I had other producers and writers that would say, hey, can you help me? And I was able to duplicate those results in other people. And I was like, wait a minute, there's something to this. And so I had a couple of venture capital and a couple of producers that came in as mentors, really showing me the ropes in film and television and showing me the ropes in fundraising. And I took what I learned in pitching, that mentoring, and that when I get into these conversations, because I know what VCs are looking for, I know what donors are looking for, I'm speaking from, again, experience and being able to meet them where they are. I give an analogy is that, and I guess I get it from film and television work, is that what I coach my clients to do is like be an actor. They get a script, they practice it, they fly into Hollywood, they go in their trailer, they're still practicing it. And then when they show up on set, the director says action and they're able to perform. But then when they say cut, they're able to go back to being that introvert that they were before. And that's what I coach my clients to do. So to bring that full circle, what makes them kind of say, this guy knows what he's talking about? One, I can definitely speak to where they are. Experts and many times introverts. Two, having gone through the literal stage fright, nervousness, and or not being able to be relatable to people, showing them the techniques of making a good impression in 4 to 5 seconds of a conversation, showing them how to build rapport, follow up, read body language. And it really resonates with people because they're just like, I never knew these things. They may have MBAs and all types of degrees, but they never learn that emotional intelligence, these life skills that really separate those that excel in business and then those that flounder.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think the message to take away there, Michael, is it's a skill. And with the right people in your corner, you can absolutely conquer some of these, what I'd call fears, like almost stage fright thing. And man, I would love to dive into that so much because I lived this too. Like 15, 20 years ago, I'd never be in front of a microphone doing a podcast. No way. But it's a muscle you have to work and a skill. And it's so cool that people like you can accelerate that process. It's almost like having a personal trainer in the gym. Like you can certainly go to the gym on your own. It's just going to take longer. You get somebody like Michael in your corner, you get going a lot faster. So that's super cool. Let's get into the storm. So New York City, major bank, married, 2 kids. What made you say, you know what, this is the perfect time to go to law school?
Yeah, I had always wanted to go to law school. It was one of those, like, I don't know whether I want to call it bucket list, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I felt like if I had a law degree, I would never have to worry about money again. That's what was kind of imprinted. I said, if lawyers are always in demand and I want to go to law school, I'm really good with people and clients. And if I go to law school, it'll be everything. And I had to apply to a number of law schools to get in. And when I finally got in, I felt like, oh, I've arrived. But the unexpected moment was the realization of now I'm older. I'm not fresh out of undergrad. I have 2 children. I have a marriage, and juggling it all became impossible. I don't want to say nearly impossible. It became impossible. It affected my home life a bit. It definitely affected my grades. And it was just like, I had to pull away. So what do I give up, right? Do I say, you know what? I'll just go single and bring the kids over every other weekend? No way. That wasn't anywhere in the cards. So having to decide to step away from law school was hard because it felt like failure. This thing that I'd always kind of wanted. And again, but I realized 2 things. One, I thought that law school was the security blanket for endless cash. And I was looking at it not from a standpoint of getting the hard work that it takes and the sacrifice, but I said, if I have this, I won't have to worry about money. So the other part of it too was when I did step away, I said, how do I stay connected in this space? I don't want to totally walk away, leave law school, and then all of a sudden I'm a graphic artist. I was like, no, it fell into my lap to be able to get a coaching and training position with a top 10 law firm. And I was like, how great is that? That when I do go back, and that was the other thing in my mind, I'll go back. Be at a great law firm. You'll also make connections. So you're in good position. But once I was there, I did start to realize, like, wait a minute, I don't need to go back to law school to fulfill this security dream or expectation. I started to really hone my ability to consult, my ability to coach, work with the managing partner of the entire law firm and build relationships. And I got a compliment that I think was just really redefined my path at the law firm. They said, Michael, do you know why we enjoy working with you so much? And I didn't know what they were going to say. They said, because you treat us like we treat our clients. And this was coming from literally the head of the law firm. And that was just because I'm saying to myself, like, he's doing multi-million dollar deals. And he's saying, I'm giving him the level of consultation and attention that he's giving to his clients. And I'm doing it with him. So I just thought that was just, like I said, that detour, I was like, okay, I get it. This was just simply a redirection. And at the same time, and that's why I was talking about flying out, multitasking to say the least, that's when I was also flying out back and forth to LA. I was writing for film and television also at the same time. So I have these 2 areas of my life that's making me honing me, humbly, being this coach, this consultant, being able to work with individuals at the highest level being able to work with the PhDs, the JDs, whatever degree you want to say, and be able to relate to them and build that relationship.
That's amazing. You mentioned when you were in the thick of this, it felt like a failure
Oh my God.
because you had this mindset of this is what I want, this is what I want to achieve. And now that I'm here, I'm starting to have these feelings that maybe I'm not on the right path, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people in that situation will give in to that thought of failure and not look at the positives, like you mentioned, like the connections that you made, the people that you met, the opportunities that you were able to thrust yourself into. Can you talk to us about how you came to have that mindset, how you looked at this situation and said, how can I turn this into a positive, even though it's not initially going the way that I planned? Can you walk us
Sure.
through how you got to that mindset?
Yeah, well, first I'll talk about the stages, right? At first, I was like, "This is all my wife's fault. You should have supported me more." All right, let's be real.
Projecting. You were projecting. Got it.
Exactly. Had you done this, and she, when she hears this podcast, she's like, "What?" Now, so had you stepped up and supported me, but that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Then it was again just this feeling of direct failure. But the first thing I had to do that was a turning point was letting myself off the hook to say, you know what? And I'm almost getting emotional. Woo! I had to say, thank God you got in. Sorry.
Take your time.
No, take your time.
Some people never get in. And, I used to always hear about those stories of the people like, yeah, I did 1 year in law school. And to be that guy, again, it felt like a little bit of failure, but I had to let myself off the hook. And I think the reason I'm emotional about it is because it was I will say, expensive, valuable lesson.
Mm.
And to be able to come out of it with a new career, new direction, that I didn't lose my family, because I will tell you there were colleagues at the same time that are on their second marriage, and some of them are just kind of like in divorce limbo. So they did kind of sacrifice it all, but in no order of importance, getting over the blaming, guilt, projection, letting myself off the hook, realizing I had an amazing experience to be able to get into law school and navigate that, to know that it set me up perfectly to be able to get into an amazing law firm, to be able to, and it was an international law firm. So I was in London. I mean, I traveled. The experience just was priceless. And again, shaped me into, say like, how did I get rid of the rough edges? And the way I got rid of the rough edges to be able to have the compassion that I do was really weathering that storm in life. So I hope that answers.
Most definitely. And you hit home for me because I myself, I like to pride myself on never saying no to an opportunity. Or if I'm interested in doing something, do what it takes to put yourself in that position to be able to do what it is you thought you wanted to do. And no matter the outcome, the journey that you go on and the experiences that you get, the people that you meet, the connections that you make, I feel like is where the real value comes from, regardless of the outcome being what you expected it to be. And it sounds like you are living proof of that. And to know that transitioning into the umbrella, this created a whole new opportunity that never even crossed your mind before. It's just proof to your resiliency and choosing to not give in to the failures and be too hard on yourself and allow yourself to learn from those experiences. So we appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable. That's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And to that point, it's like I said, knowing that it could have, like, my reaction to it, and I could have just gone just primal, just like, no, I've got to finish no matter what. But I'm, like I said, being able to, that letting myself off the hook to say, you know what, you're good, Mike. You're good. Like, sometimes you got to have that self-talk to say, hey, listen, I forgive you for any mistakes that were made. I know you did your best, and now let's look forward. So
That's awesome. I posted about this the other day, and I actually have it printed out on my desk here to look at. And I thought of you. It's a quote from Alex Hormozy, and he says, "The single greatest skill you can develop is the ability to stay in a great mood in the absence of things to be in a great mood about." And it seems like you pushed through a lot of adversity here and just kept looking to the bright side.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, and like you were saying too, when those opportunities come, because again, if I could do it all over again, would I not go to law school? You know, I think if anything, maybe I would have went a little earlier, and maybe how the path worked out. But I do not regret the experience and where it had me land, because again, I had to look back like, wow, I would not have been with this law firm but for that experience.
Yeah, I'm reading some subtext here, and I'll say what you said at the top. I'm not a psychologist or therapist, but at the beginning of your career, when you made this move to go to law school, you talked a lot about money and security. But then when you were talking about moving the other way, there was passion in your voice. So along the way, you moved from security to passion. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, the passion, because and I'll say it just the way it's in my brain. I realized the passion was the true value. The When I work with individuals and was working and coaching in that space, the level of energy and spirit that I brought to each engagement, they put a value on that. Not what degree do you have that? No, the value was that passion that I brought into the room, the passion that I'm able to transfer and ignite in a client. You know, it wasn't the letters after my name. I realized it was now me. I was the asset. I was the asset. So wherever I went, whatever room or space, it wasn't again the resume, because again, I thought the JD would be the end all be all. But it was like, no, 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 no. And I will tell you, opportunities even within the firm opened up, and they created some positions that didn't even exist because they were like, we love what you do in terms of prepping lawyers for media and what you're doing. And like I said, that was that transferable skill that I had honed through experience, both personal and professional, what I mentioned. But I realized there was just such a high ticket value on that passion versus just the credential.
Yeah.
It was a big turning point.
Yeah, that feels like the umbrella moment. So you go from being a lawyer to helping people is something that you wrote. How do you teach other people to separate purpose from packaging?
Oh, real quick, I wasn't a lawyer. Oh, you mean reframing from wanting to be a lawyer to helping people?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, all right, legal disclaimer. Don't want to claim I was a lawyer. All right. So how does it go? Well, because the transference came when, again, things that blossomed during my law firm experience, and I realized that what I was able to, couple of things, not just teach and coach individuals, but how I was also able to quickly discern in a moment what was needed, what was missing, what the problem was, and how to address it. And I use that word, and a lot of people, their definition, but the ability to sense quickly, see quickly who I'm dealing with and what the challenge was, again, had nothing to do with credentials, more having to do with, oh, this is what this person is really struggling with. This is what they really need. And then to be able to help them execute and achieve their goal.
Michael, was there a moment for you, like a light bulb moment, where you helped that first person, that first client, and you said, wait a minute, I think I'm onto something here? Can you walk us through that moment and how you knew in that moment this could be something that you could not only scale, but you could continue to deliver value to these people that were coming across your path?
Well, I think it was gradual as I was helping individuals, especially in film and television, and then helping individuals in the law firm space. But one moment stands out to me. I had to work with someone. I was preparing them for a media event, and they came into the room crying. And I was like, "What's wrong? Is everything okay? Do you need to cancel?" And they said, "No, I'm crying because I've been so nervous about having to work with you and do this media appearance." And I was just like, "Hey, no, it's okay." And I was able to bring them kind of off that emotional ledge. I was able to prep her for what she needed. And the end result, she even was just like so shocked. But the reason I give that as an example, because I took someone who was literally in tears, handshaking, to being able to create an amazing piece of visual content, and they were able to execute. And it's that I realize now that in the moment, not, okay, here, look at this video, let's take 3-4 weeks to figure this out. Realizing that people can come to me, whether they have to present in 24 hours or 24 days or 24 months, being able to say, what does this person need? Okay, that's what they need. What's their problem? And being able to fix it in a short amount of time. So that moment, like I said, I can see her in my mind's eye coming into the room crying, because I thought maybe somebody had died or something the way she was acting. She's like, "No, I've been nervous about this media appearance."
Yeah, that's an incredible skill. And we, in my line of work in production, we have folks that, about to hit the stage and just get incredibly nervous, and they see the 900 people out there, and to be able to, quote unquote, talk them off the ledge is a huge skill, and a lot harder than a lot of folks would think. Getting into tactical solutions, in a little bit of our pre-work, you mentioned attract, connect, close. I'd love to hear, like, high level, what is attract, connect, close, and how can people use it?
Yeah. I want to talk about that, and then I also want to give another example of a founder also that was like really kind of encapsulate that moment of being able to take someone kind of in this desperate situation to be able to walk them through a process. But I'll talk about the attract, connect, close. So attract, connect, close is about making your nonprofit, your organization, or idea first attractive to donors or investors. And when people hear that, they're like, "Well, what does that mean? Clarity?" No. It means that you are quickly able to make a donor or investor, one, be interested, that you have a clear mission, vision, that you are not this one-sided, "Oh, this is just a great idea, you should just buy it just because." No, you're attractive. I'll start on the startup side. You're attractive when they see you as coachable. You're attractive when you have a clear problem you're solving, clear solution you're providing, clear revenue model. Just clarity makes you super attractive in the sea of individuals and organizations that have a 15-step revenue model.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next is connect. Being able to connect, build relationship, that you're able to say, before we get into the presentation, I'd love to talk about some projects you've invested in the past. Where are your interests? That question alone has separated my clients from most of the people that they meet with. Being a nonprofit, being able to say, "Well, you know what? I want to share my screen and talk about our organization, but I'd love to chat about your other philanthropic endeavors. What organizations have you given to that really excite you?" That connection early on in the conversation, priceless. And then finally, close. Being able to ask for that partnership, ask for the check. You'd be shocked. I have sat in on so many pitch meetings, both for-profit and nonprofit, where they never asked.
Well, see you later.
Or ask for the check. Exactly. It's like they're hinting at it, like, "Hey, we're trying to raise $250,000. Like, it's not an ask. So again, being what I call that attractive organization, connecting, building relationship, building that partnership. Because listen, as we know, where there's one check, there's more. And when and donors and investors can feel, and even customers can feel when it's transactional. Like you're just like, hey, fund us for the next 18 months, and this is what we're offering in terms of percentage back and equity. That's transactional. I coach my clients to really build that long-standing relationship, and also to come into, and this is what I wanted to give an example, to come into that room with a bit of swag. I did a webinar and I had a founder, and at the end of the webinar, she says to me, she's like, can we turn off the recording? I said, no problem. She said, I saw your Facebook ad. I wanted to join the webinar. She said, I have had 11 pitch meetings and they've come out to be 0 opportunities. When I'm in a pitch, it feels like an interrogation. And I said to myself, I was like, okay. And when I ended up working with her, it said, I showed her to come into the room with a little bit of swag. I said, if you knew you were the next Airbnb, if you knew you were the next Uber, if you knew for a fact that you were going to be a $12 million exit, how would you walk into that meeting? Because you are the opportunity. Yeah, they've got money on the other end of that camera, but if you don't go in there with a little bit of swag where you're presenting yourself as a fellow CEO, they're going to treat you like an interrogation. They're going to drill you, you're going to answer questions, and you're going to walk out there with your head down. And I will tell you, successfully so, within the first 30 days of working, she got her first $250,000 investment.
Awesome.
And again, the reason I make that point is that, at the time, she wasn't an attractive startup. It felt very, again, that she just had, a good idea, great, but was she coachable? Was she building relationship? Was she connecting and closing? So just wanted to give that example too. That swag is a big thing I coach my clients into, because some of them feel either they've got too much swag or too little. So I try to bring them to the middle. Like they feel like, no, Mark Zuckerberg calls me all the time. I'm like, no, he doesn't. That's
you don't also don't want to come across as sales bro.
Exactly.
It's a fine line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is funny. Yeah, I wanted to lean into this example a little more because I would assume it's a misconception amongst a vast majority of your clients where they think these situations are supposed to go a certain way. They think that they can say or can't say certain things, that they should only be spoken to when asked a very direct question. They have to have all of these answers in their heads that they're probably going to be asked. How do you deal with that on a client-to-client basis? Because I'm sure every client's different. Every client needs a little bit of tweaking in different areas. Walk us through what that process is like.
Yeah, to your point, there is a lot of reframing that's done. One of the things I do when I do role play is that I always say yes to the opportunity. Now you might be like, well, they should be prepared for no's. They're more than prepared for no's. Most people go into these meetings thinking they're going to say no. So I give the example of, does a football team practice fumbles? No. They practice ball control and ball handling and to never drop the ball. And so the same thing when I'm coaching someone, I have to reframe them into getting the yes, being attractive. And like I said, that's why the framework really fits, because they're thinking, first of all, when they first come to me, startups, they say, can you introduce me to an investor? Founders say, can you introduce me to a donor? And then what I bring them down to earth to say, wait a minute, we've got to make sure you have an amazing message, that you're attractive as a organization, that you're checking the boxes that most investors or donors are looking for. And so giving them a framework makes it like, wow, I never thought about all these components. I was just worried about my 3-minute pitch in the deck. Now realizing they've got to look at all these other intangibles, because this is what I hear a lot. This other thing over here got funded and they're nowhere near what we have. This organization gets funded. They have nowhere near. And I was like, they're getting funded because they're an attractive organization. They've gone in and built the relationship. Another example, you ever see a show on TV and you're like, how did that even make it to TV? Because the producer, director, and that production team worked the business side and built the relationships. And that really talks people off the ledge, because they'll say, like, wait a minute, yeah, I don't have all these components. And then I'll also have to instruct them in terms of what investors especially are looking for. I go to conferences all the time. And one of the biggest things I hear from investors, they don't say, oh, we're looking for someone with amazing slides. They don't say we're looking for just the most profitable opportunity. One of the things that are on their checklist is coachability.
Mm.
We want founders that can take feedback, be coachable, because what they're also knowing is that you're also, once you are funded, you have to build an organization now.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece is the thought that a founder especially has to do everything, meaning the likelihood that you're going to be the founder and the CEO all through Series A is not very likely. It's just common practice. So the way to answer your question, how do I deal with it, is one, kind of showing them some realities, showing them the gaps kind of in what's not making them attractive. When many times they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I've had a number of meetings. Yeah, that did happen. Yeah, they didn't ask any questions. Yeah, I didn't ask them why would they fund me or not fund me? Because one of the things I tell my clients to ask is, say, is there anything about today's presentation that would not make you want to invest?
Yeah.
Asking that question. Anything about our nonprofit that would make you have a concern about donating? And being that vulnerable, most people don't want that type of criticism.
Yep.
They just kind of want to be stroked.
Curious, because I've sat on both sides of the pitch table, both pitching large projects to clients and then having folks pitch to me. How much does authenticity weigh into the equation?
Oh, great question. It heavily.
Yeah.
I would say authenticity and transparency. Right? So I know they play well together. You being able to tell just an authentic, the why, not being performative, just being you, goes a long way. The sooner we can, it's almost like a dating relationship. The sooner that they can know the real you, the better.
Yep.
If it feels too polished, and then we've got to find out 4 or 5 meetings later, you really don't take criticism later. It's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Or
even the other side. I coach my clients to get that authenticity out of the investor or donor. How involved do you want to be in the organization? Are you a day-to-day guy, silent investor? What makes you tick? What kind of ticks you off? And their ability to answer those questions and be authentic. So I try to build that authenticity as a two-way street.
Yep.
And then 2, I really stress it as a founder or executive director to be authentic.
Yeah. I found authenticity, especially when you're pitching to someone, can help them bring their own guard down when they're like, oh, this person is in here being themselves. I can do that too. And you lose a little bit of that steely wall, that steely gaze. You make them laugh or smile or smirk. And it just goes such a long way to like tear down barriers that they built before you get in the room.
Yeah. People do business with people they like. We've heard that before.
Yep.
People invest with people they like. I have not, with a few exceptions, just because maybe there's a lot of money behind it already. If they think you're a jerk, the likelihood that you're going to get funded or a donation is just slim to none.
Cool. Let's land this plane. Clear skies, Chris.
Sure.
What are we doing?
Yeah. So, Michael, I wanted to talk to you from a hypothetical perspective, because I feel like a lot of people may be in this position and would gain some value from your answer, right? So let's say I'm a founder of a startup and I think I'm doing well. I don't think I need help, right? I've been in this space. I'm an expert in the industry. I've started a business. I'm using research. I'm using AI to guide me through the way. I don't feel like I need to engage someone like a Michael Clark, right? What is the biggest misconception that these types of founders, these leaders have? And what would you say to them as it relates to engaging someone like yourself to help them streamline efficiencies and get to those goals that they're trying to achieve in the early stages of starting and running a business?
Yeah, like the example you gave, like, hey, I've got this. One thing I would kind of hold up a mirror and I'll say, okay, let's see your team. And likely you're the only one that's going to be standing there. And that's a tough part because individuals don't like to fund, one man to person teams. They want to see that you can build an organization, that you have followers, that you have a CMO, a CTO, and a team. So if you're, and also too, holding up that mirror, judge your situation by your results. Like, do you have traction, or do you have a functioning business? Because to your point, most of those individuals are just in this I'm a founder bubble.
Yep.
I call them professional founders. Slide deck, they go to events, they network, but they don't get to that out of that ideation stage or pre-seed stage. We need an MVP. So why do they come to me? Because they need to go to the next level in a shorter amount of time. The reason I say shorter is that I can't say, oh, you're not going to make it without me. People come to me when they want to speed things up. I have often organizations will say to me, Michael, had we not engaged, I think it would have taken me 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years. Or if they're in a situation where they kind of plateaued, not gotten out of seed or pre-seed stage, and they've spent 5 years, 10 years, and you want to skip grades and you want to have an amazing year, that's when you should reach out to me.
Yeah. Chris, you're hitting on this, but a lot of high performers will default to this solo mode. I got this confidence swagger.
Yeah.
It's important. Like, you even talked about having confidence when you walk in the room, but somebody asked me this once about the work I was doing, and I'm curious on your perspective. Where does the hustle help, and where is it just fear dressed up as productivity?
Yes, I love that. It's fear, and I'll answer the second part. It's fear dressed up as productivity when that's all there is, and there's just no tangible execution. There's no deliverables. You can have the tag, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder, but ultimately, what are we founding? Organizations that provide goods and services to a customer, whether that be B2B or B2C. If you're not doing that, the title is good. And some people, like I said, are professional founders. I found this, and I'll give you a good example. There are people that I work with, different patent lawyers, and they'll say, I have clients that have 20 patents, and just having the patent is all they want. They don't care whether it comes to pass. And so I almost say that here is that there's some people that are just like, just to be a founder, their satisfaction isn't, I'll feel great when this comes to market. They're getting their high off of just being the title founder. Now, where the hustle helps is the resilience, is the grind, is the grit, is the ability to stay up late and get up early. But there's, and I want to, not to get into semantics, there's hustle and there's grind, and then there's thirst, and then there's hunger. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll take someone who's hungry that can now place that into, okay, what do I need to do to be successful? And I usually find a lot of people that are just kind of in this loop are thirsty. They're at this point of desperation. And again, it's enough to just be in that title of founder. The other point I want to make is individuals that are comfortable, meaning if their mortgage is paid, lights are on, internet is on, and they're a founder, I'm saying to myself, like, so whether you bring this to pass or not, your life is not going to change.
Yeah.
I always have to say to people, I need you to work this entrepreneurship thing, this startup thing, as if the 9 to 5 is gone, mortgage payments are going to stop in 3 months. How would you run your organization differently? And they all give me a list. I would do this. I would do this. I would do this. I'm like, you need to do that now.
So a little fear.
Let's start that right
A
now.
little fear.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and then did you want to talk about, I know you mentioned something about AI. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, you mentioned AI in the pre-work.
Yeah.
Where do you see it as like a tool versus a replacement?
Yeah, it's interesting because if anything, I think people use it kind of as a crutch. So they'll say something like, and I'll even get it from clients here and there, and they'll say, well, AI said, and I'm like, oh, okay, AI is good. But one of the things that I've even been studying is that there's this thing called AI psychosis, where AI will literally, great idea, Jim. Awesome, Jim. Yeah, go with it.
To sycophant.
Unless you tell AI to kind of poke holes in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's one. And then the second part about it is you do need actual people around you. I wish you could put on a slide, my CTO is ChatGPT. We call it Jim. And my other one, but it's just not possible. You need real people to be able to execute and get things done. It's great as a, and I'm not mad at it. I do, it's within my workflow. And to be able to really analyze large amounts of data, spark creativity, I'm not mad at it at all. The automating daily tasks, I think that's great. But in terms of, I know a lot of founders that are just, and organizations that just lean on it so heavily, and they're in this loop of, oh, well, AI said, well, I created this via AI. I said, okay, that's great. But where's the execution and where are the results?
Yeah, that's so true. Chris, or excuse me, Michael, I feel like we could talk to you all day, but we're coming up on the lightning round, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but in the lightning round, JR and I, we're just going to fire some one-off questions at you. Would love to get your thoughts and answers on them.
Sure.
No pressure. It's completely off topic. So I wanted to start by asking the question of, what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten in your journey, and who gave you that advice?
It really simple. It was from my dad, who was a truck driver. He said, if you work hard, you can have anything you want in life. Just as simple as pie. And I will tell you, it has been that ability to sometimes say, let's step back. Let's put some hard work behind this to execute. And I think of my dad all the time with that. Yeah.
All right. Lots of New York to LA trips, it sounds like. When you're getting on the airplane, what's the one thing you never forget?
Other than a charger, I would say a journal of sorts. I'm big on the productivity that happens in the sky and being able to write out and plan. I think there have been studies done about how the brain and creativity really pops when you're 30,000 feet in the air. So it would be a journal and something to write with.
Last question for me. You've dealt with a lot of clients, a lot of different personalities from a lot of different backgrounds and industries, right? Has there ever been one client that stood out where you at first meeting them, you said, man, I have my work cut out for me? And if so, what about that client really challenged you in your skill set?
Yeah. I would say, and it's interesting because it comes up every so often. There is definitely a type of client. What stands out is I really feel that when you have or presented with a tough client, it's really shining a light on you, either upscaling or going to the next level at some point. My emotional reaction is, I can't believe how can they? But I've learned to step back and say, wait, what about this is about you and your process? And they're not, because we could always kind of classify people, oh, this person is just a jerk, they're not a good fit, and we turn them away. But so often those people I now see as, oh, you're my promotion. Like, oh, you're gonna make me upskill. Okay, gotcha. All right. Now in the moment, I'm not that graceful. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking, oh, I got to go to this next call with them. But I will tell you that the balance is, and every time it happens, it's really just really showing a gap that I have. And I'm not just kind of saying like, oh, one of my challenges is working too hard. No, what I'm saying is I really realize the tough clients. And if anybody's listening, like if you always have that client, oh, I hate when they pull out the mirror and say, what is this about who I am? Why does this rub me the wrong way? Is this actually showing me like areas that I feel I'm deficient or feeling insecure or imposter syndrome? So that's what I'll say to that. So hope that helps.
Love that.
All right, my last lightning round question. Do you have a morning routine? And if you do, what is it? And if you don't, why not?
Yeah, I am in a season where I'm really working on it and establishing it. So it includes drinking water first 10 minutes or so when I wake up. I bought a walking pad not too long ago. So getting on the walking pad for anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes. And I have dogs. So spending time with my Doberman and Frenchie. Notice I didn't say people and children, and that's bad. But I get up before everybody, so yeah, that would be the morning routine.
No judgment from me there. I like to get up before everybody too. I think 5 to 6 a.m. is the one time a day I get to myself. So yeah, locked.
Yes, and I am a member of the 5 a.m. club, so I do get up nice and early.
Early risers. I love it.
Michael,
it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JR.
One thing we typically close with, and it's what's one piece of advice you have for young folks early in their career so they can avoid some storms?
Yeah, I would say the two big things: network and build relationships. Go into places and spaces where you're going to meet new people. Build it into your routine. Sometimes you can get into the grind where you're just going to a job or say working from home and you're not engaging new people. Go out, meet people as much as possible. And two, especially early in the career, take big risks. Like take risks as they come about. If it feels big, hairy, scary, if it doesn't ruin relationships, go for it. Oh, and then the third piece, I know it's like yes or one, but the third piece is early on, write out and define what you want, the life of your dreams.
Yeah.
Too often we put it off and we live this amazing life later in life. If the life of your dreams is, you know what, I get my nails done 2 times a week, I go on a trip and I travel once a quarter, really hone in to live the life of your dreams now and don't think it's going to be something that you'll put off, because 10 years, 20 years will pass and you'll never have done those things.
So true. I couldn't agree more. Michael Clark, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, where can our listeners get in contact with you if they want to engage your services, they want to follow your journey as you continue to grow and scale? Where can our listeners follow?
Yep. 2 best places is to go to personalitypitching.com and click the book A Discovery Call. And if you mention the podcast, I always do something special for you in terms of how you come out of that strategy session, and also going to Instagram, Personality Pitching also, and you can click the link in the bio to book a call. So whether it's Instagram or going to the site, and please mention the podcast. I always like to do something special when listeners reach out.
Awesome. We'll put that stuff in the description as well for the listeners. But Michael, this is an amazing episode. I could go, like Chris said, for another hour. This is right in my freaking wheelhouse. Appreciate you coming on. And I think I'll reach out and say I heard the podcast.
Awesome. There you go. There you go.
Thanks, Michael.
I love it. I look forward to connecting.
Yep.
Thanks, Michael. Pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for letting me be on the show. Thank you.
Awesome, Chris. I want to pull on a little thread that Michael had at the end there that I love, and it's define what your best life looks like early. And I think that's underrated because oftentimes we get into our careers and we don't have that North Star that we're shooting for. And we get into the day to the day, and all of a sudden we end up in a job we don't want, in a life we don't want, because we weren't pointing at something. And if you can figure out what that is early in life, that's huge, because you can always point at it. And guess what? If you get there early, there's always that second mountain, that third mountain, that fourth mountain. So
Exactly.
have something to point at. I love what Michael had to say there.
And most definitely, what I've learned is it's never too late. It's never too late to pick up the pen and write it down and write out what you want to achieve in the short term and the long term. And to be able to just follow up on that and have that guidance, that guardrail, that you wrote that down and that's what you're working towards every day you show up to work, you'll be surprised at what you can obtain. So Michael came on and he dropped a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge. I can't wait to go back and listen to this episode, but appreciate everyone for listening as always. And until then, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
I traded skyline lights for a stack of case law. 2 kids asleep while I chased that one last door. Thought a new set of letters would buy me peace, but the cost of the dream was the quiet I couldn't keep. I blame the wind, I blame the weight, I blame the clock, till I looked in the mirror and finally let it stop. So let me off the hook, I did what I could. Sometimes the storm don't break like you thought it would. If the plan turns fine, then I turn with it too. Same purpose, new road, I'm still coming through. Yeah, the rain hits sideways, but I'm standing up.